Hey everybody, I'm Nico,
And I am TK.
and that makes this X's for Podcast, your weekly reaction to all things comic going on at Marvel, DC, and more. We have quite a show today. A lot of number ones, some weird catch-up stuff going on, but more than anything, it's a weird week for comics.
Yeah, it's sort of starting to feel like they're all weird weeks for comics.
Yeah, whether it's Diamond, going bankrupt and then kind of not going bankrupt, but then still kind of having gone bankrupt. We're in a weird place for so many different groups in comics, and like the amount of how you feel about it any other way, we make our political opinions very clear on this show, but like the comparisons between the Marvel universe right now and Doctor Doom and like the real world, it's just like a really weird time to read the comics. And then as I'm reading the DC books, I can't help but compare what's going on in DC proper to what's going on over in Absolute, and how it's a weird time for comics.
Particularly for me, the thing this week was the comparison between our present day politics and the Marvel universe. Yeah, we'll talk about it more when we get into One World Under Doom, but that was hard on my mind in a not fun way.
And one of the things that definitely was even kind of like, are we sure? What book do we want to start with? Because I'm ready to jump right in.
You don't want to do any commentary or news? Hold on, I got you on a quick freeze. Now you're back.
All right.
My one news thing I kind of do want to talk about is because it's a Brevoort thing. Did you see his stuff about Galactus?
No.
Don't expect any Galacta in the comics. Tom Brevoort is very not pro Galacta, and he really took the opportunity to once again, man, I feel so bad. He took the opportunity to beat down Jordan White a little bit because Jordan D. White was somebody who brought Galacta in, but Brevoort would be the person editing any books that she has come into besides the Rivals Infinity book, and says that he is not interested. And I don't know, man. This guy cannot win with me. And I'm really trying. I'm trying to be cool. I'm trying to recognize that we've all got a job to do. But Jordan D. or Tom Brevoort and I seem to be at real opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of what we want to see from Marvel these days. And it amused me to no end that it has got, because like when it's like, what do you do with the X-Men, there's really no right opinion. I mean, I think I have the best ideas, but that's me, whatever. And if I ever had Tom Brevoort's job, people would hate me in ways I have not even approached being dissatisfied with his work. So it's, but when we've gone all the way into, I'm like, let's put Galacta in some, but like Galacta needs to show up in One World Under Doom and yell at him. And Brevoort is fully like, you will never see this character. At the very least, like, because I think Galacta's funny and fun in a way that I think I want to see the absurdity in Marvel Comics. But as we joke about, like, she is the living embodiment of a Japanese body pillow, and I do understand the feeling that she shouldn't be in the books. I feel like there's a way to make it fun.
And there's definitely a way to make it fun. I don't disagree with that. I have some problem with the amount of you can't have it both ways that we sometimes really find in Marvel Comics lately. Like, I want the fun and the silly of Galacta, but then how am I supposed to take Galactus fucking seriously in the Fantastic Four trailer? Because now my association for Galac is laughter. And I think the place that became the hardest for me is we've spent, to make the commentary again, we've spent the last 20 years having Jimmy Fallon pull on Doom's hair. So now you want me to expect and believe that this guy actually is just an all-powerful god. I had the same problem with Eddie Brock Carnage #1. I really did not enjoy when he grew wings and was able to create a giant airplane basket worth of people carrier sack thing. I just felt like you've spent so long telling me that Carnage is just like too silly and too wacky. I cannot take him as this reimagined powerhouse seriously.
Yeah, I definitely see that. Yeah, I don't know. So I definitely agree insofar as soon as we saw the shadow of Galactus, and I mean, like, the first meme I saw was, of course, that the shadow of Galactus, and then the next frame it's Galacta. You can't really move away from it, but there are just times where I think, if you can't, then maybe you shouldn't. And that is not to say that Galactus should be in Fantastic Four First Steps, but just that Marvel should have had the better answer ready. It's not hard to, if you're in marketing, it's not hard to look at the landscape and go, oh, one of our other wings is producing this game. So the name Galak has had for the last year is this character. We could at least make the meme and put it out and be like, you thought you knew. And that way, at least it's our story and at least we're in on the fun. And it's the same thing with the comics. I would specifically never let somebody like Tom Brevoort go on. I mean, it's his Substack, so they can't stop him. But I would probably ask nicely.
You can't stop the bee.
I would probably go on and ask nicely that he not say anything. And I would probably find a way to put Galacta elsewhere. I would find a way to, because I think the character is somewhat canon. I mean, if nothing else at this point, she is multiversal canon. She could show up in an Exiles. Find a way to make it a little bit fun, guys. Like, a little.
Well, and to that, I can't stop thinking, I'm getting rid of Brevoort. I'm getting rid of the bee. I can't stop. But I do, because here's the thing. But I can't stop looking at it, the beautiful mountains of Nevada. That's why I keep turning my head.
Let's call it out, please. This is horse shit. I'm stuck in the cold.
I am broadcasting from the 56th floor of the Hilton at the Vegas Strip. To be fair, though, it is currently 52 degrees, and tomorrow we are getting Las Vegas's winter storm. So it's not exactly like I am sitting in the heat. It is a low of 30 tonight. So,
what the low is here tonight?
Maine, so it should be probably lower.
It's no degrees. It is none degrees, possibly less than none degrees.
Like Nick Lachey's recent comeback attempt.
Yeah, so what are you doing tonight?
We're seeing Janet Jackson tonight, we're seeing Drag Race Live tomorrow night, and then we're seeing Mariah Carey Friday night.
Oh, okay, cool. I'm just going to heat up a Hot Pocket and go to bed. So anyway, that's what's happening on this show.
Love you.
And I love you too, Kevo. Yeah, so that's what's happening here. Dr. Doom's a guy.
So, okay. I want to say the thing that actually I feel so bad. Did you know this was the event?
What do you mean?
This is the event? This is the event book?
Yeah. I mean, what did you think?
This feels like Prelude to Schism by Paul Jenkins before Jason Aaron's Schism comes out. This does not feel like Schism. This feels like Prelude to Schism. This does not feel like One World Under Doom. This feels like Introduction to Doom 101, How to Get Annoyed at Latveria.
This was my initial problem, yes. They have had a year. We're about a year out from Blood Hunt, right?
I mean, we're really like 8 months from the end, but
from the beginning.
Yeah, for sure.
And early on during Blood Hunt that Doom is making a play for for Sorcerer Supreme. Anyway, I'm thinking of the number of times that Scott Summers has met with law enforcement in the pages of X-Men, and I'm thinking nobody once could have said, listen, Scott, do us a solid. We're dealing with so much. There's this thing going on with, like, find some. Here's what I'm getting at. There have been no references to the fact that Doom has been quietly getting fealty from everybody.
Yes.
And I would either have had, I guess I would have either had a Prelude to Doom series, or I would have put in, there's been nothing in Avengers about it really. Spider-Man has had Doom, and they're just Spider-Man's doing he's doing an adventure. He's doing a mad caper.
Well, JMS is just having Doom out there being buddy-buddy with Rocket Raccoon.
Yeah, and there's been months to take, I mean, I would have put it in Daredevil. There have been so many places where you just need people being like, hey, there's something going on. Like, it doesn't even need to be Doom showing up every time, but just like, our government's in shambles right now, and like, I can't talk about it. Something, the idea that this has all been going on in the background to such a degree and none of our people know about it. Spencer Ackerman, who is writing Iron Man right now, who is like an incredible journalist of geopolitics, could have been given a prompt that, like, Tony of all people needs to know that this is happening. Like, Tony knows this is happening because of all the international business he does. He knows something's going on. So the fact that it starts with Doom being like, hey, this is what has been going on the past few months, not in any book, like just pure data dump download. This is what you need to know. And then every hero is like, whoa, I'm shocked. I had no idea.
Well, now let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
I love that you said give Spencer Ackerman the prompt, but like, you just described somebody who is powerful, influential, amazing, and was a get at Marvel. Do you tell them this is what you will be writing in the age? Because now we have to change the term. We can no longer call it who we used to call it. So now we have to start calling it a JMS Rockstar run. And what a weird turn of events. Because who would have ever expected JMS to come on and do an underrepresented Captain America run? But like, do you have a young JMS, a young genius of, nonfiction work, come on, and do you tell them this is what you're writing?
So I use Spencer Ackerman because that is the best example of the get on both fronts. Spencer Ackerman's a cool dude. He likes comics a lot. He is not somebody who had to take this job for some reason. He is somebody who knows the lore and is very enthusiastic and has his own stupid pitches like the rest of us do for every book. But then also
all of my pitches are brilliant.
Yeah, mine too. Very stupid, brilliant. But then also has this job as a journalist and like knows a lot about world politics and writes about that consistently. Would I, if I got the guy who wrote The Martian, Andy Weir, I think that's who it is. If I got Andy Weir, let's pretend his name is Andy Weir. You froze again, but you're gonna come back and tell me if I'm right or wrong. If I got Andy Weir to come on and write any Marvel book that he wanted, I am probably not going to tell him what to write. I'm sure there's some kind of relationship there where there's some sort of like Marvel needs him for the popularity. He needs Marvel for a little extra promo. Oh man, you are really not back. If I had somebody like that who maybe didn't necessarily care about Marvel Comics, but like could do a good run and could be supported by by editorial. Oh, I'm on my own. Maybe I'll just sing for you guys. I would probably not tell that type of writer what to do. Yeah. Oh, he's back. Look at that big smiling meatball face. So yeah, I'm not going to tell an Andy Weir what to write. Spencer Ackerman is such a good get because you could be like, hey, Spencer, like, we're doing a thing and you what?
No, it's stupid. You say your thing. Your thing is real. My thing is stupid.
No, I want to hear your stupid thing.
So you said Andy, and then I got to Andy Serkis, and then I was like, no, is that the right Andy? And so then I was thinking about this article that I read this morning about how the director of Hitch, Andy Tennant, was doing a whole thing about how Will Smith has never called him ever again. And Will Smith actually is the mastermind behind Hitch. And it was Will Smith's vehicle. And he hired Andy Tennant and kept having to be like, please don't fire me. And the only reason that he like feels that the movie went on to be a success is because Jada Pinkett Smith like stepped in and kept being like, you're both brilliant and you both want to make good movies. Can't you just find a way to make a movie together? And like Andy Tennant is like, the movie I made or I wanted to make was okay. The movie Will wanted to make was okay, but the movie we made together really did deserve to be in the top 10 films of the year. And I'm really proud of having made it. I wish Will would have ever called me again, because to find out that he's directing a sequel without me that I have no connection to, I'm not allowed to be part of, and the studio won't call me for, was really shocking.
Oh my God.
More shocking than Hitch 2 in general?
No, evidently Hitch 2 has been on like the table for like 20 years.
Isn't Andy Weir that guy that was in our first Eurovision?
I don't know. That's Andy.
That's Johnny Weir, the skater. I was right. Andy Weir is the guy who wrote The Martian. Okay, so I had that right. Andy Tennant, mad props. I did not realize was the person who wrote two of the greatest, or who directed two of the greatest movies of the 90s, greatest rom-com of the 90s, Fools Rush In, Selma Hayek and Matthew Perry, and greatest kid caper of all time, far surpassing, I'm sorry, you fucking shows, far surpassing Lindsay Lohan's The Parent Trap, It Takes Two, featuring the Olsen twins.
Okay, so here's where you're wrong. The actual best children's caper film ever made is Three Ninjas.
Yeah, for boys.
We don't want to kill you. We just want to kidnap you.
Did you see one of them has been on social media a lot lately, and he has to get on there and just field jabronis being like, this movie's so stupid because how is their dad Japanese, or how's their granddad Japanese? And he gets on social media, he's like, my granddad is actually Japanese, and I was one of the sons. When your granddad is Japanese, you can absolutely look like this. You are all insane.
That is amazing. I wish people loved Surf Ninjas as much as they love Three Ninjas.
I agree. Let's put tennis ninjas. Let's put ninjas in all kinds of sports. Rock climbing ninjas. They could be anywhere. But It Takes Two is a great movie. And I did want to make sure that got said. Anyway. Yeah, if Andy Weir were writing the next book, I would not have said, hey, can you put in a Doom reference? But Spencer Ackerman is absolutely a person you could have done it with. And there are other people too. Like there are plenty of house people. Could have gone in Elektra. You know, Elektra's jet setting to Madripoor to go. What does that look?
We're going to talk about the worst ever appearance of Elektra this month. Oh my God.
Oh no, I thought that's great. It's a good idea. I mean, it's not going to work, but it's a great idea. So anyway,
I really want to see Carnage take on Phoenix.
Yeah. That I didn't love as much. Anyway. There were laying groundwork for books has started to become solicits and fingers crossed about social media. And oh gosh darn it, you're frozen again. And that's a real bummer because for one thing, social media is an absolute mess right now, and Marvel of all people don't got it. They're not where their tastemaker base is, and they're not really engaging in any way. So hoping that we're going to know what's going on with One World Under Doom, because we're reading solicits and because we are hopefully getting people's thoughts on social media or reading Tom Brevoort's Substack or whatever the thing there he is. You just keep restarting whenever you need to, boo. That's not really a way to do it. Prelude to One World Under Doom would have been the way to do it. All this needed was one additional issue, and it would have been, this is what's been happening since Bloodhunt.
And I think that that's where I'm so frustrated. Because of the time decompression that the Marvel Universe has to operate under as a result of the monthly publication, and so many of the titles operating at like, this 6-month arc is 6 months. This 6-month arc is 1 day. Because that has always been the pacing problem, I am really frustrated by Doom disappeared for 6 months. Wait, are you telling me the 6 months in real time was 6 months in real time? Oh, so for this one thing. Only for Doom.
Yeah.
Because, wait, has it been 6 months since the fall of Krakoa? Okay, so then how long have these X-Men teams been together? Has it been 6 of this team since the 6 months since the fall of Krakoa? Because at this point, I'm starting to have a really hard time beginning to understand how all of these events, like, there is a limit. And I love stacking events. I really do. Because it's like, when you play Uno, you can either play correctly with the real rules or you can be silly. And if you're going to be silly and you want to change the rules, I'll let you, but that's not what a draw 4 does. And there's this fun modification on Uno called stacking, where people stack draws. So like, I'll put down a draw 2, but instead of having a draw 2, the next person, if they have a draw 2, can put 1 down and keep going. And then finally, when someone doesn't have a draw 2, they draw 11D, or, they draw a multiple of 2, so they draw like 20. The thing I kind of come to with this is the stacking effect of events has the same outcome. It still winds up feeling like this isn't really how it works. Somebody should have actually had to deal with that draw 2 fallout before somebody else got to say, no, now the next person draws 2. When you continuously put off the repercussions till one person is saddled with all of the repercussions for an entire group, it winds up making one thing feel like the patsy or the scapegoat for the entire identity of the story. For me, putting so much on the responsibility of the events of Bloodhunt, an event that, while Jed MacKay did a really great job crafting for me an arc of several titles, and maybe even a really cool, like, 6-issue crossover thing, it was not a line-wide crossover featuring everybody in the Marvel Universe. And I just felt a little worse for wear.
Yeah. I mean, I really agree with that. And this is all kind of just leading up to the actual substance of this book. This is where we get into a place that is very complicated, and it's going to take a while for me to suss out all my thoughts. But Doom offering, basically what we all would like in a government, the things we can agree we would all like, which is just like to be well treated as citizens, to have opportunity and education and access to healthcare. Most other stuff we can't figure out. And of course, Doom never talks about how he's going to pay for any of this, or any of the complicated things. But, he says the two things that even if you hate every other party or political view in your country, you could at least sit in a room and agree that you would like access to healthcare and an opportunity of some kind, be it education, be it, proper ability to do your job. You could say you want those two things, and then you would fight over how you pay for them, how you execute them, any of that. But Doom says he's gonna give you all of those things. And it is notable that even our evil political leaders today don't say they're going to do that. It's, you know, they say they're going to do stuff, and like it might even be stuff that you would think is good, like, you know, at the time saying that you're going to lower grocery prices, and that, you know, obviously not doing it, but at least saying you're going to do it. But that gets to even be complicated, because some people will say, well, maybe we can't have lower grocery prices because this stuff just costs a lot. You know, maybe we should increase wages and let the grocery prices be high. So it becomes even more of a debate than just saying like everybody should have access to healthcare and some form of sustaining opportunity. This is going to be one of those things where Marvel will ultimately associate the good guys with some form of American idealism that corporations will always try and say is tied to the government that supports them. But it just is not reading even the least bit correct or authentic to me. And right now, like, the thing I was most bummed by is that there's no, in terms of the writing, there's nobody being like, what if we let him cook? You know, what if we let him do it? Nothing else is working. And like, I get that part of the point is like, well, he's Doom. We all know he's bad, but we're really kind of beyond that point now. Again, like this event completely sucks to me because as I mentioned when this got introduced and we talked about it, Doom was already the ruler of the universe. The universe got destroyed, and the person that managed to do one thing about it to save it in any way was Doom. So he was fighting Beyonders. So the idea that he is like, and I finally conquered the most difficult thing, the UN. You can't really, I'm not impressed. I don't buy it. I'm not sold. The stakes aren't raised. But then also like Doom doing that, Jonathan Hickman spending years having Doom be like, I was just trying to do something, sort of broke the illusion that the character is mustache twirling type villain. And now he's more complicated, and a book like this can't really resonate in the same way.
I feel like the problem is I've been reading people do that with Doom since 1982. And it was, you know, John Byrne giving him a childhood that was born of a type of poverty in Europe that Americans didn't know about, let alone write about. And like every couple of years, they just reset him, and then he just becomes a megalomaniac again. I would not be surprised if we found out that early on in his journeys as a Sorcerer Supreme, he encountered a being far too powerful that is inhabiting him, or he now serves. And it's some take on Wanda giving into the Darkhold from the film, from Varney taking over Blade.
Yeah, I do think it's either that or he encountered a being that he's like, I have to prepare us all for. I took over because something is coming, and I was trying to prepare everyone. You know, if we were all united, we could fight against the thing.
And I think part of it is I don't buy that. I would hate that. I would literally hate that more than I would hate anything else in the entire Marvel universe if this is actually just a backdoor for Doom's a good guy. That is reductive, foolish, and it literally would be the antithesis of talking about the political climate. It would be saying that the current regime understands that a worse world government could have happened, so he's really protecting us by abducting Americans off of the street and putting them into internment camps. And so I would literally think that is the worst thing Marvel could do. But I really feel like where we are at, the problem with this story is it lacks depth. Not even Doom lacks depth, not the heroes lack depth. The bad guy has just taken over the whole world. The whole world says yes. They send in Baron Zemo. Baron Zemo is murdered, replaced by a Doom bot. The Doom bot is now off the table. We're no longer talking about it. There's no, and at the end the lady is just like, I believe in Doom now. There's nothing here. There's nothing here but the solicit. This could have been 4 pages in the back of every Marvel comic this month.
Yep.
And it would have done the same thing.
I completely agree. And then at least in that case, it would have felt more like a prelude, and it would have felt like it was giving us information we needed to start the event. I agree. There really is a lack of depth. And I go back to, like, why are none of the heroes asking why this might be appealing to everyone, or why this might be a good thing? Who has failed such that this A was able to happen so quickly, and B, anybody would want it? Why the heroes certainly aren't providing universal health care. And on the one hand, that's not their job. But on the other hand, that's the thing we all suffer from the most, is lack of access to health care. And why aren't any of them doing anything about it? And it doesn't have to be like, okay, well, maybe Doom's a good guy since he's offering it, but maybe it's asking what it means that he thought to, that they had never been able to get anywhere near it. And might he be at all sincere? Like, there have been horrible dictators who have had these same goals and were sincere about the goals. They were just bad people when it came to how they were going to accomplish these things. It is such a nuanced conversation, and Marvel wants to be on all sides of it. They're never going to say anything that would offend the Trump regime. They're never going to point to those people as villains. And yet they're going to point to villains who aren't even close to as evil as anybody in the Trump regime and be like, that's the worst person we know. Be careful of them.
It's so interesting because I feel like I'm hearing a lot of rumors that Brave New World is evidently going to specifically piss off the current regime. Pretty aggressively.
Which one's Brave New World?
The current Captain America movie that opens this week.
Oh, yes, yeah. Sorry.
And so they are saying that this is going to legitimately, like, piss off the current regime directly. And it's a shame that the films have a little bit more teeth for that these days than the comics.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not excited about this event, and also, like, here's the other thing. Well, 2 things. One, I can't keep doing these cycles. Blood Hunt, Venom War. I mean, before that, Judgment Day.
Yeah, that's what I was saying about the Uno stuff.
Yeah. I can't keep doing this. I'm not, and especially because Nico pitched an idea, I pitched an idea for what's going on behind the scenes. One of us is almost certainly right, and every event, like, when Blood Hunt started, the first thing we said was, okay, so we had this team fight and they all got their asses kicked. This book will end when they realize if they just switch dance partners, they're all fine. And then the event was over in our minds on the episode. Because what else are you going to give me? You're going to give me a bunch of tie-in books. It was so funny. We're about to talk about Eddie Brock Carnage, and I went just onto Wikipedia, and because I was like, at the end of the day, I don't think I cared enough to absorb what happened in Venom War. And so I went to the Venom War Wikipedia page, and just not a single tie-in book matters. There's not a plot line in a single tie-in book that matters. And you can say that the plot for Venom War matters. I kind of don't think it does. It's always the same thing where it's like, there's zombiotes in Venom War. It's vampires everywhere in Blood Hunt, and it's just there's always putties. And the big thing is, how did we get rid of all the putties so that people can walk upon the streets again? And then there's like 2 or 3 Marvel plot details that matter to diehard fans. That's how every crossover is. That's exactly what's going to happen here. How are we getting rid of all the Doom bots that are on the streets terrorizing citizens? None of One World Under Doom X-Men, One World Under Doom Fantastic Four. None of the side books are going to matter. And then the question is, how do we get rid of the Doom bots? And then what are the 2 or 3 plot points? Oh, Doom's probably losing Sorcerer Supreme. It's probably not going back to Strange. It'll go to like Clea or somebody, or one of the kids from Strange Academy. And
give it to Galactus. Just get real weird with it.
Give it to Galacta. Come on. Yeah, there'll be 2 or 3 little stupid little plot details that will matter if you're kind of a diehard fan, or if you are hoping to be the next Ryan North and take over the book. Maybe you'll pull these threads for something else. Johnny will decide to shave his mustache because he doesn't want to be silly anymore, and we're done. And now I'm just sitting around being like, okay, just if you could just fax me the Civil War 3 press release now, so I can get ready for the next thing. I have to chart the 56 books that you're releasing for it. That'd be great. I just want to plan my summer.
And that's where I feel like I give One World Under Doom #1 a B-. I'm going to give the event a B as an idea, the title a B- maybe. And some of that's because I did just reread that Fantastic Four run and I'm feeling really positive on it, but
is that run, I know there's a few Doom things in there.
It's where the T-Rex comes from. It's where
it's pretty Doom heavy.
It's Doom related.
Okay. I just like, I don't know. I would have hoped that we were beyond the Fantastic Four just diametrically opposing Doom all the time at this point.
Well, but I mean, the Fantastic Four represents science as an idea of evolution, and Doom represents science as an idea of oppression. So I feel like they don't have a choice.
I feel like they don't have a choice but to disagree. But I don't know. I was expecting something a little more. I don't know.
They got to move Doom past, I'm going to use ultimate absolute power to corrupt absolutely. That really is, at the end of the day, the Fantastic Four represent family protecting people, and Doom represents literally taking away your willpower. They've got to do more with Doom to do more with the Fantastic Four.
Yeah. And they've got to do more with symbiotes and Eddie Brock, too.
Oh, man. Not my favorite issue. I am historically not a Charles Soule fan. It is not a thing I love. He had Daredevil and Elektra at the same time, and it did not do much for either one of them. He's the guy who had the Punisher start dating Elektra for a little while. It was not the moment. And at the same time,
for so many of us, he's the guy who wrote IVX.
Yeah, for real. You know, it's so tough to think about Charles Soule coming back to the Marvel Universe for this. It feels like this is their attempt to set this book up for something big. And all I can think is that Tom Hardy's Venom is over. So what's the point?
That really was kind of one of my questions. Like, are they hoping that if they keep this character hot and Sony just cannot make a Spider-Man movie to save or a Spider-Man universe to save their lives, that Sony will license Venom to them to use, which it does actually kind of seem like is going to happen. So they need to keep the character well spiced. I had high hopes with the Jesus Saiz artwork. We loved him so much on the Aaron Punisher run. And I think for me, he is the ideal gore artist. His ripped apart bodies are just the right mix of hyper realism, because he has that very kind of photorealistic style mixed with the way he always embraces the science fiction and fantasy of comic books and weaves that into his art style, means that you get what feels like cinematic effect blood and gore. It's not so comic booky that it just feels like it has no teeth to it, and it's not so realistic that you feel like the entire production team is going like, can you believe how edgy we are? Red Band. Appreciated this was not a Red Band book. I do need that nice medium. I like a Werewolf by Night that's bloody. I like a Ghost Rider that's got some of that horror element to it, but it's got to be right in that zone, and he's a guy that does it right. And that was one of the aspects of this book that was really fantastic. I even really love the premise. If you sat me in the pitch meeting and said, what's going on here is they're stuck with each other and Eddie is just trying to get him a suitable host. Okay, sure, I'm into that. You can pull me off of, I can ride off of the stupidity that was Venom War with that pitch for Eddie Brock. I'll tell you, I haven't read all new Venom yet, so I don't know who's in the suit. Do you?
I don't think they've revealed it yet. I think they just keep revealing who it's not.
Okay, it looks like it's Rec Rap. Those covers
at one point they were saying it was going to be Rick Jones, it was going to be Luke Cage. I feel like they've debunked everybody so far that's been rumored.
Is this going to be one of those things where like it was supposed to be somebody and then something happened? Like, is it going to be like Ronin?
Where it was like, wonder if this was the opposite. I wonder if this was like they said, okay, this is who it's going to be. Let's come up with a bunch of silly red herrings.
Oh, huh. Okay. Oh, that'd be fun. I gotta get into it. I really felt burned by Venom War, and I was actually really excited that you put this on, because sometimes I just need you telling me we're going to work to knock me out of some personal stuff with comics. That has been one of the joys of the show, because I can get stuck in it. I can get mad at Marvel and not read my favorite characters or books for years. On a personal level, because I'm mad at somebody who did something. But with the show, at some point, it's probably going to get put on the list that this is a thing we need to read. And then I can just be entirely dispassionate about it. And sometimes that means like, okay, I kick myself in the butt to read the book. And then I like it again. And I'm like, oh, this wasn't a big deal. And sometimes it's the exact opposite, where it's like, I tell myself to read it and I'm like, yeah, emotional you was correct. It's not good. You can stay out of this one for a while. This was a little bit in between. I still feel burned by Venom War. I still feel very annoyed by Venom War. I don't feel like I walked away from it with enough stuff. There was no swag in the bag. And getting Eddie Brock in a Carnage suit is not good swag in the bag. Even if I like the pitch for Eddie's got to get Carnage another host, I felt like they missed all of the things there too. Like that's, I don't know. I mean, there's more issues of this, and I'm sure it'll come up. But like in this first one, like the idea that that's not a good thing. Like Eddie, who is, Lethal Protector, he's kind of a hero. Like he's trying to save people. He really doesn't want them to get killed on this plane. The idea that he wouldn't kill himself to kill Carnage, but instead is going to find Carnage a powerful host that can like bond with this suit and do more murder because all it wants is to kill. And then on top of that, the fact that the Carnage symbiote is just Cletus Cassidy at this point. Like the fact that the symbiote has no difference of personality, that it might want to behave differently while bonded to Eddie. It's all just shrug.
It you know what, the coolest thing was Jesus Sierra's rendition of Carnage in Below. The Carnage in the suit was so cool.
Yeah.
But the rest of the book really just, it's kind of it's exactly what you're saying. I have like slightly different takes on some of it, but it's exactly what you're saying for me. And as far as like, where's the evolution of the story? So, okay, Carnage is trying to find a better host and Eddie's helping him. All right. where is that part of this journey? Why did I spend years on the Clintar, years on King in Black, years on all of these big events just to have it be, well, everything's a stopgap. I don't think you're ever going to get to a Marvel universe where you can kill people left and right, and have people be okay with saying goodbye to their characters. But like, you could do Carnage 2. Like back in the day when you would just do like character 2, like you would just do the second version. You would still just call him Carnage. You didn't call him Carnage 2. But maybe it's time to do this is a different symbiote. It loves the name Carnage, or it ate Carnage, whatever. And now it's new Carnage. Maybe it's time to kind of let go of ideas from the 90s that, as I once heard explained, if you really need to break down Carnage is essentially a hemophiliac's attempt at forming a scab, and his entire existence is based on looking scary. That's not a character. And having him be a literal woman torturing psychopath that has no actual story behind him, but then making him so evil that a cult worships him. What is this? I've seen this 90s movie 100 times, and frankly, I don't think the Kim Dawson Skinamax version is any better either. So like, you can keep this iteration of 90s schlock that has gone on too long. This title in particular, not the worst, but did not elevate me.
Yeah, I completely agree. There's nothing in here I was desperate for. There's nothing in here I'm desperate to see move forward. We hinted at this earlier, but this all culminates in Carnage showing Eddie a list of potential hosts. And one of them is Elektra, which I think Nico and I really did not appreciate. One of them is Bullseye, which, is silly, whatever, but it could make some amount of sense. 3 of them are Silver Surfer, Galactus, and Hela, which is where I'm just like, what are we actually doing here, guys? And the 4th one is Phoenix, who is at that same level, if not higher. What are we doing? No, like, that's not a single one of those people would accept the symbiote, couldn't burn it out if they needed to. Like, that's not a storyline I'm interested in. So I'm not taking you seriously when you're only presenting me with like a few good hosts. And I don't even believe any of the people we see in this picture are meant to be plot relevant people that we might see come up. I think it's going to end up being just like it's going to be like Ben Reilly or something fucking stupid.
Yeah, and you know what? With everything they've done with him for Chasm, that would be a great fit.
Yeah.
It's stupid, but what else are they going to do with him?
Yeah, I mean, and if it had been a bunch of the clones, there could have been something there. Because, I feel like so often we don't go back to that early symbiote lore, where, the symbiote was just obsessed with Peter Parker, and, Carnage is a child of the Venom symbiote. And so the idea that it would want to bond with a Peter Parker to kind of figure itself out a little more. I don't know. I just don't care. I just don't see how I'm going to get to the end of this road and be somewhere that's very relevant for my comic reading experience. And without seeing any indication that the Carnage symbiote could be something other than just Carnage, I can't really see why I would be interested in where this goes, or that it would ever go anywhere. But he's going to end up with Cletus Cassidy eventually, like relatively soon. And then we are just back at the status quo.
Yeah. For me, I give this book, I guess, like a B- as well. I didn't love it. I didn't like it. I didn't hate it. I didn't dislike it. It felt like a very Charles Soule book, where you're taking guy who'd been redeemed and unredeeming him, kind of putting it like, it just felt more of that same stuff that I'm kind of over from Marvel. This is the stuff that doesn't really elevate the line, going back in time and giving people what they claim they wanted, and then they don't buy, or they buy for 4 issues and then stop buying. you're not making anything better. Giving an addict drugs does not get them off of drugs. You know, this is not Carnage methadone.
That no one asked for.
Yeah, I really should have said a methadone Carnage. What do you give the book?
It's probably more like a C for me.
Yeah, and that's really fair. I don't think that you owe this book more than
Yeah, no, I definitely don't think I do either.
You know what book I really think I'm going to need to spend a little more time with at Marvel before I really have an opinion. I'm going to want to sit with the knowledge that we are heading into another X-Men crossover coming up. I'm going to need to sit with X-Manhunt for a minute. I'm glad we're not like going too deep in on it right away. But I definitely, you know, I'm X-Manhunt it does not have me excited, but I'm looking forward to talking about it when the time comes.
I agree with that sentiment. I think what I could be excited about is the Rubicon that it represents. Not so much for Marvel publishing it, but for once we get past this, I feel like we have fully moved off of the fall of X, transition into From the Ashes, settling. And even if we're stuck, even if I feel like where we are is kind of a ditch, at least I'm no longer like trying to get the car out of the ditch or like thinking we're somewhere we're not. Once we get into this, I can accept that we are where we are, wherever this title shall take us or wherever this crossover shall take us. Once it's done, I think I can finally kind of firmly accept that like this is the line. They're soliciting now the next big Phoenix story, starting with issue 11, which, you know, at least makes me happy that this book is going on for a hot minute. Yeah, I don't know. This is not the era that I would have built for the X-Men, but I also really did think it was going to be a lot more transitionary and chaotic, and I'm settling in one way or the other.
And that's, I think, even how I felt about the Absolute line at first. I thought it was going to be a chaotic mess. I thought it was going to be just throwing ultimate X-Men ideas at a wall and hope you got something. Honestly, I was wrong. Absolute Batman is great. Absolute Wonder Woman remained incredible. And I even like Absolute Superman more than I originally did. The Absolute line kind of is a crown jewel for the DC universe right now.
Can I tell you what I realized I really love? And it took me a minute to feel like this is what they were doing or to understand that this is what they were doing. But my big point of reference is the Ultimate Universe and on many other alternate timelines where you get to it and you go one of two things. You go, oh, here's the point of divergence where, you know, rather than working at the Daily Planet, the Superman Clark Kent works somewhere else, or, you know, like the Daily Planet is now a blog because it's a different universe. And you basically are trying to find the parallels and the points of divergence / anchorship with the stuff that you know. And it's like, oh, how did they do it just a little bit different, but very recognizable and very similar? And how am I going to see some kind of reflection of the universe that I've always known these characters to be in the new one that they're saying is different, but is not different and can't ever really be different? The thing that I really appreciate about the Absolute line is I don't feel like they're doing that. I feel like this just is a different universe. We do see characters, we do like, in Absolute Superman, we see a version of Lois Lane and we see a version of Jimmy Olsen, but we don't spend a lot of time going so far. Here's where things went off the wagon, and so Lois never went to college for journalism and therefore never went to the Daily Planet and joined Project Lazarus. We're just kind of there. She just kind of is part of Project Lazarus. Jimmy Olsen just kind of is one of the Omega people, and we're rolling with that. We're just, that's how this universe is. It's the same thing with Batman, like we can identify that the Waynes are a different family in this universe, but we're not sort of trying to pinpoint the exact moment that the Waynes became different than they were. And I think that is something that I always get tickled by. I always read books and sort of pat myself on the back a little bit for knowing the lore enough to be like, oh, I see here. I mean, I did this all the time in the Ultimate Universe, where it was like, I know the lore well enough to see how they changed one little thing, and this is why Beast is different here than he is in the main Marvel universe. But not having that stuff has led me to just accept the Absolute Universe for what it is, and to just be able to enjoy the stories a lot more, not as alternate origin stories and figuring out what all the alternate stuff means, but as just different versions of the characters. And it sounds like kind of an academic distinction, but when you see it on paper, like, this Bruce just isn't anything like the other Bruce. And they both became Batman, sure, but it's not like, it doesn't feel like convergent evolution. It feels like how nature will just ultimately evolve crabs a bunch of different ways.
And I think part of it is that, like, when you're talking about the other versions of characters and you're thinking about Ultimate Wolverine now, this new Ultimate Wolverine for the new Ultimate Universe. He's just, what if Wolverine was co-opted by the Russians, not by the Canadians?
Right.
And then the other side of it is, it's not the same thing as, like, what if Bruce's father had died, Bruce went on a different path, Martha was a different person, etc. Yeah. So it's just a completely different ride. Yeah.
And it's one that I have really started to appreciate. I think everybody's putting their whole heart into it. And Ultimate the other thing I really love about Ultimate Batman, or Absolute Batman, for me, this feels like the blueprint. Every frame is storyboard for the film that I would like to see.
Yeah.
This is, I talk about this so much. I hate the Dark Knight movies. I hate the Matt Reeves Batman even more. They're so joyless and dark and gritty and serious and lacking in super heroics. They're so grounded in reality that I get that we went too far with Joel Schumacher. I get that those got silly and there were bat nipples and it just was too silly. This still gives us the super heroics, a little bit of sci-fi, I say sci-fi magic, but I mean like the cinematic magic of sci-fi, but also like that there could be fantastical elements in this world, that we see Edward Nygma creating the Riddler as an AI robot, which is just not something you would ever get in Reeves or in Nolan's Batman. The bat tank is just a little too, is too big. There's a few elements here that feel like they're still tied to that. Batman is a street level hero. He's doing kind of detective-y type work. He's stopping organized crime on the streets of Gotham, but it just feels ever so slightly more super heroic. And you know, him being a young beefy boy that still sits at his mom's kitchen table, there's something resembling joy there. There's something resembling not just everything is miserable all the time, nobody cracks a joke, you know, Alfred being a little bit off kilter, a little bit dark, a little bit sassy, you know, Alfred being
Alfred Ghoul.
Yeah. Him being the darker version of Alfred ends up lightening everything because it's such a spin on things that like he's not the person that's like, I just want you to be happy, Mr. Bruce. Bruce is like slightly happy, and Alfred's this dark dude. I don't know. Anyway, it's just so working for me. I would watch this movie tomorrow.
As long as it was made with this spirit, because I fear that the same way your point about like the Dark Knight and the Reeves Batman are joyless, I'm so afraid this is like, you're seeing the joy in this is so great because I see it too, but I feel like a lot of people online are like, this is the gritty badass Batman we need.
Yeah.
No, well, I don't know how that's what people are seeing.
Yeah.
Like, because that's like the definition of surface read for me.
Yeah.
That is just like, oh, there's a tank.
Right.
Oh, it's the sort of way that people see that Wonder Woman book, the Absolute Wonder Woman title, as just like, oh, she's edgy and hardcore now. No, she didn't cut off her arm to be a savage. She cut off her arm for love.
And because she's a witch.
Yeah, she didn't bring a man to hell and tortures him. A man wound up in hell, and she gave him his redemption through love. Like, you can look at these books and see gritty hardcore, but then look at how the Superman story is actually about how that family is indestructible.
Yeah. There's, I mean, like, love the Wonder Woman read. Like, she also has a Buster Sword limit breaks. Like, are you kidding me? This is the least dark. This is so much less dark to me than everything I've read in the main DC universe. And not, you know, the main DC universe has been really fun, and you know, that's not a critique of the DC universe, but for all the fact that this is a universe that got its shit rocked by Darkseid, and now because of his showing up there, things are presumably much darker. They found a way. Like, I get this. There's a bunch of stuff that's not good happening. Like the party animals and the zoo are not good. Like, and they're not silly criminals, but it just doesn't feel the same. It also doesn't feel the same as when I have to hear about like the Falcone family just doing like actual crime, like the Gaudis did.
Just murdering for fun.
Yeah, and it's just like, oh, it's the drug trade. You know, it's. I can always get a little bit into that if they make up a drug and the effects are a little bit sci-fi. And like, you know, at some point the hero has to take the drug because what it can actually do is let you tap into the cyber sphere. You know, if you give me that, then I love when it's a crime family and they're importing the drugs on the docks. But if you're just like, no, it's just cocaine. First, give some to me, and then we'll end the rest of the issue. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Yeah, Wonder Woman has a Buster Sword and limit breaks. It's an absolute blast. And Superman is just a book about how Lois is going across every continent because she's so horny for this guy she met one time. And that's hilarious.
I mean, and it's because she's got agency. Yeah. She's not like a woman obsessed with a man. She's a woman on a mission.
Yeah.
And like,
yeah, he rocked her shit, and she is a badass who knows that her very hard-earned skill set is not being used.
Right.
And she saw somebody who was like, oh, he's doing the right things with the skill set. I got to follow that guy.
Which, by the way, speaking of skill sets and following that guy, I just want to thank producer Kevo for having the skill set to adapt to. I'm broadcasting from my phone, and then my phone overheats and shuts down. And we're just making this work as best we can.
You're doing great. Vacation. Kevo, we love you. Thank you for everything. Yeah. And, you know, as long as you get to see Janet tonight, it's all that matters.
Right? Especially because, like, it was really funny because, you know, we're doing this 3-hour time difference. And I was like, okay, so we're going to finish the show and run right to Janet. Oh, wait, no, we're going to finish the show at like 4:30.
Right.
And have a ton of time.
Yep.
But no, I really think the Absolute Universe is pushing towards something fascinating. If you actually go back and you read Absolute Batman #1, it says the zoo is 5 parts. But then what happened is issue 4 wound up being a fill-in by Gabriel Walta, and is beautiful. And so the story was co-scripted by, or co-plotted by Scott Snyder and Nick Dragotta, but then it was done by a fill-in artist, and that was the one that gave in all of that amazing backstory to Bruce's past, instead of having a fill-in issue that ruined everything, or like having a missed month. So we actually find this arc going on a little bit longer than expected, and I feel like I'm excited for the new round of Absolute books after this.
Yeah, I really am too. My complaint remains, maybe we'll find out something new, but they really didn't hire enough women. And so that's going to be a sticking point for me. But, I really am, because the other thing about, the thing about the Nolan and Reeves Batman is that they never felt like they were in a shared universe, which doesn't have to be a bad thing. It's not what I wanted, but I can absolutely understand how, if you have a certain vision of Batman, and especially DC is not Marvel at the time these movies are coming out, so it's kind of difficult to imagine writing your Batman in a shared world if you're trying to make him even a little grounded. He's too grounded in those for me, but even if you wanted to make him a little more grounded, I can see how it would be really tough. Burton's Batman movies don't feel like they're in a shared universe at all, so like it's fine. Absolute Batman, even though they have given me not a single, they probably have very small ties and I've missed them, but there are very few large, obvious pointers to the fact that these 3 books are in the same world. But there's something about the vibe in all 3 that I simply will not be surprised when it happens. There's something about the slice of the world that each of these authors has taken on that does make me feel that I just haven't been walked to the bridge yet. But when I get there, I will absolutely see how the bridge goes from Batman over to Superman, how the bridge from Superman goes over to Wonder Woman, and how Hal Jordan's going to be a part of that, and Green Lantern. And yeah, I mean, I'm having fun with these, and as always, as a very new to DC person, it feels really fun to get to be a part of something where I know as much as basically everybody, and especially in this, because of the thing I was saying before, because they are so not married to like, look, it's this, it's even Riddler, even Edward Nygma, like it's that character, but you don't, he didn't do the thing that he did in issue 405. So that's why he's like this. It's not like that. It's just, look, Edward Nygma is there. And that's all you need. There's no like, let's show our deep lore knowledge by indicating where things changed. It really feels like if you just have like really basic knowledge of any of this stuff, you can start fresh and enjoy it. And I'm having fun with that.
And there's even little things like, I don't know if you caught the mousy looking woman with the glass that Wonder Woman saved in issue 3. They give her name. They say her name is Barbara Minerva.
That's who?
That's Cheetah.
Oh, okay. I was like, Barbara Minerva probably is somebody. I thought it might be Barbara Gordon, and like the Minerva was something different.
No, it's Cheetah. And like, what a huge character to just drop in that way.
Yeah. And now, and she's obviously going to have a very different relationship with Wonder Woman in this, and that's cool.
The only thing I hope for that from these DC books, as they continue to go, is that we don't get to the same thing that happened to one of my favorite reimaginings of all time, Squadron Supreme as Supreme Power. I do not want to see us get to the point where by the 6th volume of miniseries, there is nothing to do with the first miniseries anymore. I do not want to get to, God, I'm trying to think of who could possibly be like absolute Starfire in 2027 and say to you, do you remember when we liked the Absolute Universe? Because we've been waiting for Starfire forever. What did they do that this no longer feels like the Absolute Universe, and this is not what we wanted for Starfire? So,
yeah. And the fact of the matter is, we are nowhere near out of danger of that being the case.
No, especially with, as you pointed out, the lack of diversity in the creative teams.
Yeah, and not even that the lack of diversity would lead to that sort of drift, but that the mindset that lets you produce so many books and not care might let you produce a lot of books and not care about the drift.
Speaking of producing so many books, there's 3 Absolute titles. I'm going to give each one of them an A minus right now. I think my lowest grade is Absolute Superman at an A minus, just because I feel like I'm waiting for a little more to happen, even though I love it. Absolute Wonder Woman A, Absolute Batman probably A. I'm just having a great time.
I think Batman is my A minus. For all of my praise for it, it is still a little too street for me. I loved seeing the Riddler bot, but I maybe at this point would love an Ivy, or somebody, again, just like I like the sci-fi villains. I like the ones that feel a little bit next level in that regard. So that's probably the A minus for me. Superman is, I don't know. The way that it deals with how Superman can be aw shucks and still like scary, I don't think most anything does that very well. And this book takes you, it really shows you how, because I think sometimes I can come off a little aw shucks and then be absolutely fucking evil. And I feel like I had a lot of that. Like, I recognize aspects of how I felt as a kid in how they show what Superman's upbringing was, and what Kal-El's upbringing was like, and in his kind of desire to go against the grain in a way that nobody liked, and the only support he had was from his parents. So anyway, I have real love for that one. And then, yeah, I mean, like I said, Limit Breaks, Buster Sword, magic, arms coming off, really kind of a more like indie art aesthetic, for the most part. I don't know. Wonder Woman's just really fun. So A's for Superman and Wonder Woman, A minus for Batman. Loving it all. Very excited to keep going with it.
And it's sort of in that same vein that I think I may be both excited and kind of maybe not as happy about Green Lantern Corps #1.
Yeah, me.
It was a great book.
Uh-huh.
The writing was great.
Uh-huh.
The reveal of the other Green Lantern Corps member obviously was the highlight of my week.
I was gonna say, so okay, you didn't let me tell me. Yeah,
we're
okay.
a full spoiler show. We have always been a full spoiler show.
I know. I just always worry. I don't want to. Yeah. Getting Sinestro, that was fascinating.
He looks great. He still uses his fear powers as a Green Lantern. I'm loving this. I think where I'm a little disappointed is we've now read like between Green Lantern 1 through 19, Night Terrors 1 and 2, Fractured Spectrum, the other one shot, another one shot, a mini series, the War Journal. Between all of this, I still don't feel like anything's fucking happened. All I think we've done is reset Green Lantern to exactly what you thought it was before you started reading. There's a core. Hal's the main guy. There's a lot of aliens, and there's a lot of different color rings, and they make up the rules as they go.
Yeah. This was a lot for me. If I'd known how absolutely fucking jam-packed this issue was going to be with stuff and information, and references and old status quo that for me is new because I joined right at the start of the previous status quo, which was an entirely new thing. If I'd known all that, I might have said to you like, hey, can we maybe not do this one? Because, you know, if it's even most books that when we do the number ones, and even most DC books where I don't know everything that's happening, they're not so jam-packed that even if I get to my comic shop at 3 p.m., I can't grab the book, read it, have some time with it, take my notes, maybe give it a second read if it's like really complex. I think Black Canary Best of the Best just had so much text when we started that I did have to do a double read, and I remember I got that one very late. Not really a problem. This is really the first time in a while that I've been like, I know nothing about the subject matter. And I that's not even true. I do. I've read a lot of Green Lantern now, but it felt like I didn't. And, I got it late in the day. I got it at like 3. And it just, even with a second pass read, it was not enough time. I still have questions. I have notes. There's still so much happening. My big thing is this feels like the same kind of pulling it all together that we just got from the Watchtower and every DC hero that hangs out on Earth. And so the entire DC hero, Earth-based hero group, unionized, organized, they all got onto the Watchtower. Everybody has a place on the Watchtower now. They're all one team. Everybody is a Justice League member now. And there are sub-teams and subcommittees. And concurrent to that, and in some ways connected, but I feel like maybe it's really not kind of shown enough. And maybe editorial and creative didn't do enough to be like, hey, everything being out of whack for the Green Lanterns was really the same thing as it was part of Absolute Power, basically. So when we stopped Absolute Power and we got everything back to normal, everything went back to normal with the Lanterns too. And now they're doing the exact same sort of reorganization, but there's more Lanterns than there are DC heroes. So when the Lanterns reorganize on a new station, that's like a bigger deal than it happening with the Watchtower, but it also looks really similar. And so there's this kind of back and forth of like, I'm recognizing this process, and we're doing the same thing where we're taking a tour of their facilities. Oh, Joe's the president. She's doing this thing. Oh, there's this Green Lantern. They're doing this thing. Oh, Sinestro's here. He's a good guy now. Just trust us. And, Hal doesn't. And I don't even mind that we're going through it again after just doing it with the Watchtower. I actually like it in a lot of ways, but I felt like it was a missed opportunity to not acknowledge that. And I think this is where I realized that the Lanterns are DC's X-Men, because because there are millions of them, thousands, millions.
I mean, there's one for every sector, and there's like 10,000 sectors. So there's at least one for every sector.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's how many for Earth alone? So, there's thousands of Green Lanterns, which means that just like a random dude is a Green Lantern, or is a lantern of some kind. Which means that, you can always have new people showing up. You can do a lot with population metaphors, and realizing that in this issue made it overwhelming, because I realized there's still such a long way for me to go to conceptualize the Lantern world. And then it was also a little bit disappointing because I felt like they really just wanted to do a survey of all of the Lantern stuff that and let us know where it's at today.
Yeah, that really winds up being, you either have a Green Lantern story or a Green Lantern core story, or you realize that you made a Hal story And so you need to find places for all the Green Lanterns, quick put them all in one book. I loved getting a new Green Lantern, a Tamarin Green Lantern that was so cool. But yeah, this was an info dump in a lot of ways that did feel a little hard to process all of it. You know, if I really personally had a big hope for the title, it's that it maybe gets a little bit more focused. Hawk Girl showing up at the end was great if you care about that relationship. So otherwise, for the most part, I think that was kind of like an oh moment. You know,
She had a relationship with John.
I think it's one of those. I have spots and holes too.
Yeah.
So like, you wind up in a position where like I think this will be like all the other titles in this run era where the Green Lantern books come into their own. They get there when they develop like a good flavor. Like the soup needs to get strong, the stock needs to build.
Yeah.
But this is a lot of cooks to build a stock with.
Yeah. I wasn't really familiar with the work of Morgan Hampton and Jeremy Adams, who are the writers on this. Fernando Pasarin is an artist that I know I've seen a lot of times before, who has a really good kind of DC house style. But I gotta say, I didn't get to say this about Doom, One World Under Doom, but R.B. Silva, love the guy so much. Drew some of my favorite X books, all the way to the end, all the way to Fall. Not the right guy for One World Under Doom. A lot of times his backgrounds are, we are in a nether space where like there's no actual like substance or land, and like literally that's what's happening a lot of the times when he draws X-Men books. He's like, this is the Phoenix in the white hot room, so all of what you're seeing behind her is just psychedelic colors, because of course it's just like it's not a physical place. But then when you're like, this is Tony Stark in Latveria, I'm like, is everything on fire behind him? Otherwise I don't understand what's happening. And the lens flare use, it didn't lend itself well to that book. Here with Green Lantern, Pasarin style is also very kind of maximalist, in a way that when the writing is maximalist and is cramming in a lot of Green Lanterns and a lot of details, and a lot of action, having a very maximalist writer who's stuffing like a ton of like cheetah constructs at one point into a panel or two, it just gets to be a lot to be processing at once. And it's great art. It just is a little tough to digest while trying to figure out every single thing that's going on in this very, very packed book. Man, a lot of value for your money though, guys. I'll tell you that. A lot of story here, a lot of art.
And Jeremy Adams, you know, he is the guy over on Green Lantern currently. So at least this is part of the big picture, and it's where I've got the patience for it. But I'll tell you, the turnover to Green Lantern at 201, 202 back in like 86 wasn't smooth either. So, you know, I'm going to give this issue a B minus. I'm going to give Sinestro's sick fucking body in that green costume an A plus. Do you really want to know what my dream superhero looks like? It's Sinestro in a Green Lantern costume. But the book itself, like, Joe didn't really have a personality.
Yeah.
Guy got every fucking cover and didn't have a personality. Kyle got every fucking cover and barely spoke if was in it. Like, this was just not, this could have been 48 pages and I still would have felt like it didn't give me enough. But like, as you said, it actually gave me more than any other single issue did this month. It's just so hard when you're talking about a book of several hundred characters.
Yes, that is 100% correct. And I was very glad that, you know, we get one panel, I think maybe two, that have like Kyle Rayner in them. Like they limited it, even given how much there were still a ton of people in it. So I was very grateful that we left even some other lanterns we could have had by the wayside for an issue or two.
Yeah. And just because like I think like, you know, I don't need to see Bloodica right now. Like that's like part of it. But either I don't need to see some dumb old land. I would kill for an Abin Sur resurrection, but you know. Anyway, final thoughts on books today from me. I had a good time. Really, I like where the books are headed, even if I don't love where things are. And that's a huge step up from times where I've liked where the books are, but hated where they're heading. And this feels like a storm I can wait out.
DC, I'm good with where the books are. I really do like where they're headed. You know, I'm like I said, I'm always in that getting my sea legs, getting my situation together thing with DC. So I tend to be a little less harsh on them. And yeah, I mean, like I'm cool here. Even for me, Green Lantern Corps is probably a B-. And even still, for all that I had a lot to critique about it, I still really did enjoy it. And that value thing is no fucking joke. Like if you can pack a book full of stuff, I am going to go back and reread it. Like that's the thing, is it's a bummer for the show because I didn't really have enough time to become an authority on what happened in the pages of this book, but I have all week to read it before new books come out, so I'm stoked about that, and I am going to reread it, and I'm very excited. I like to be able to do that. Marvel, I don't know that I even like where things are headed, especially not with what we talked about and read today. I don't like where things are headed with One World Under Doom. The thing I'm most excited about for it now is I just kind of know essentially how it's going to end. Like I know we're getting there. You know, I know the approximate timetable we'll get there. I can generally see the shape of what it's going to change. X-Men, yeah, we're getting to a place where like I'm more okay with it, and I am interested to see where it's headed. So I've got that going for me. But I don't know. By comparison, Absolute has me a lot more excited than Ultimate does.
Yeah, I would agree. I think Ultimate, that's even kind of what I was saying. Ultimate kind of lost its way in a way that I hope Absolute doesn't.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And I am so excited to talk about more of this. We've got some Drag Race coverage coming. We've got way more stuff coming in the pipeline. Comics, movies. I'm sure we're going to talk about Captain America ASAP and more. But until then, Kevo, you have been the world's greatest producer. We love you keeping this show running. I know I'm going to mute my mic so you can tell everybody where they can find you. Oh, he was not prepared for that, so he's going to take a second.
Oh, you can hear me. Cool. All right, you can find me at Kevorelly at KEVOREALLY. I'm having a good time on this trip, and I'm looking forward to the rest of our coverage.
Well, we love you. We think you're amazing, and we can't wait to do more. And TK, until we come back to do more with you, where is everybody able to find you?
You can find me at TK Accidental. Nico, take it away. Take us home. Take us to Janet.
Nico Action, NICOACTION, Nico Action Music, NICOACTIONMUSIC. This show, HTML, that's Husbands Talking More or Less. X is for podcast and X is for show. You guys can also do us a big favor, like, comment, and subscribe on all of those feeds. But something you guys can do for yourselves that would mean the world to us. Number 1, stay safe. It's a crazy world. Number 2, be brave because we think you're amazing. But number 3, evolve daily because who you are was amazing yesterday. Who you are is incredible today. But who you are tomorrow, that's the dream. And we can't wait to see you there, as Andrew points out, with all of our thirst traps over on Blue Sky. It's a pretty thirst trappy group. So stay safe, stay brave, evolve daily. We will see you